So you're 12 and a half hours ahead of me.
Yeah, we live in the
Yeah.
future.
You live in the future. How is it over there?
Uh, Everything's too futuristic out here.
Awesome. Well, now we're gonna go to masks, and so in this real time, connection, you on Thursday and me on Wednesday having this conversation, we're gonna make some masks, and so hopefully it'll bring us more into the present moment together. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Welcome to the Taking Off the Mask podcast. My name is Ashanti Branch, and I'm really glad you've joined us. Today's guest is Niroj Bhandari. Niroj is our first guest from Southeast Asia. He lives in Nepal. Niroj and I met a couple of years ago at the Hive Global Leaders Summit in New Delhi, India. And today we get a conversation about he and I talking about our masks. He and I have stayed in touch over the last couple of years, and I'm just really want to share. Like, he just finished medical school. He is about to become a doctor. He is a doctor now, um, and he's taking care of this next journey of his life. And I'm really excited that he had time after his exams were over, and after he got the results of his exams too, to be in this conversation. He experienced the mask activity when I presented there in New Delhi, India, and we've stayed in touch. I've invited him on the show a couple of times, and I think finally he was ready. We talk about a lot of things. We talk about middle school challenges growing up. We talk about Carl Jung. We talk about um, like our natural state of being, the words that we kind of often in our normal being, the words that we use to describe ourselves. And as you know, we're talking about these masks. I'm really thankful to have him on the show today. And we're going to be bringing you more guests from around the world. We're going to be bringing you more guests from different backgrounds, because I think it's important to also recognize that these masks are not just here in the U.S. I'm here in Oakland, California. That we know that I know about the mask that I grew up feeling the need to wear, feeling forced to wear. But we also know that there's masks from people all over the world. And we look forward to meeting new people and inviting them into your ears to listen to them and learn about them. And we hope that if you haven't yet made a mask, that you will make one. You can go to 100kmasks.com to make a mask. You can share this podcast with somebody. Maybe they need to hear some of these messages, that you're not alone. And we hope that you will continue to be a part of this movement with us. And we look forward to seeing you ever forward. I want to give you a couple of updates about something coming up with Ever Forward. So maybe you have seen that we have launched a new game called Ever Forward Club: The Adventure. The link will be in the bio, the show notes. Please check out that game. We are trying to support 300 educators who will receive this game and instructions and a webinar to play this game with their advisory classes, with their homeroom classes, even with just within their classes. It's an adventure, but it's also a way for people, students, adults to get to know each other a little bit better. That's Ever Forward Club: The Adventure on Indiegogo. And at the end of this month, at the end of May, Memorial Day weekend, May 29th and 30th, we will be hosting the 17th annual 24-hour relay challenge. For 17 years, Memorial Day weekend has been an annual event for Ever Forward Club. We invite you to be a part of this year. It's going to be live streamed on YouTube and a new site that we're working with called Tiltify. We're going to be raising money for 24 hours, and we're going to invite you to share it with somebody. Tell somebody about it. But stay tuned. If you're not following us on social media already, please go to our website. You will have information there. It's called the 24-hour relay challenge. And we look forward to seeing you live May 29th and 30th. We look forward to you helping us raise the money for not only half of the money will be going to the Million Mask Movement and the Peer Mentoring Project. And the other half, we will be partnering with 5 organizations who will split the other half of the money that we raise. It's a great way for us to be able to give back to other organizations and to build deeper connections with partners in our community. So thank you for listening. Thank you for being a part of the show. I normally don't give commercials in this, but I'm learning that I don't know how else to tell you the information. So I wanted to make sure you knew what was coming up for us as an organization, and we hope that you will get involved. Please like, share, subscribe, share this with somebody who you think can benefit from it. We thank you for being a part of the journey with us. Ever forward. Welcome to the Taking Off the Mask podcast. I am so excited right now that I get to welcome Niroj Bhandari from Dhulakil, Nepal. He doesn't know how excited I am because he doesn't know yet, but he's going to find out right now that this is my first guest on the show from that part of the world. I'm so excited. So, Niroj, welcome to the Taking Off the Mask podcast.
Thank you, Ashanti. Thank you. You can see by my smile how excited I am too.
Well, I think I may be kind of loud. I think I'm looking at my thing and it looks like it's kind of loud. So I'm gonna go down a little bit. I don't want to blast you out with all my excitement. But what I want to do is I want you to introduce yourself. I want you to tell folks who you are. Tell them a little bit about yourself, and then we're gonna jump in and maybe you'll tell them where we met, or I'll tell them where we met because we've known each other for a little while. But I want you to introduce yourself to the audience, and then we'll go from there.
Shall I start?
Yeah, whenever you're ready.
Yeah. So, hello everyone. I'm Niroj. I recently finished my med school here in Nepal, and I run a couple of non-profits and profits here in Nepal. So that's basically it. And I met Ashanti, I think in 2019, Hive India. That happened. It was a leadership conference that happened in India, New Delhi, in 2019.
Yeah. It was a part of the Hive Global Leader Summit, and you came down with a crew, maybe 7 to 10 folks from Nepal, right? I think you all brought a large delegation, yeah?
Yeah, yeah. We
Yeah,
cover small population in the world, but we cover the large population in Hive.
that is exactly what I saw. That's just what I saw. And what I'm really excited about is that, and I think that you said you just completed your medical school, yeah?
Yeah,
So what's next for you right now? I guess maybe we'll come to that toward the end. I mean, that's all the pleasantries. In this podcast, we're not really talking about our careers and our but that's a big deal to finish medical school. So first, I just want to make sure I acknowledge that for you, and
thank you so much.
congratulations on finishing that. So let's just take a deep breath for that amazing success. Let's take a deep breath. Yeah, yeah. Well, at that Hive, so for those who are listening and watching, Niroj and I, he participated in a workshop that I did at Hive where we invite people in that space to do the mask activity. It's a workshop, so it's a lot of people in a room, very different than this experience we have one-on-one. And I think since then, maybe you've made one or two masks since then. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And so today we're going to not only make masks, but we're going to talk about those masks. Are you ready?
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
All right. You have any questions before we start?
Uh no, nothing as of now.
Okay. All right. And so we're on two different time zones, right? So right now, where I am in California, it's 8:12 p.m. And how time is it where you are? Well, let me say
Uh,
8:12 p.m. on Wednesday. And where you are, what time is it?
it's 9 a.m. in the morning on Thursday. Sorry.
On Thursday. So you're like 12 and a half hours ahead of me.
Yeah, we live in the
Yeah.
future.
You live in the future. How is it over there?
Uh, Everything's too futuristic out here.
Awesome. Well, now we're gonna go to masks, and so in this real time, connection, you on Thursday and me on Wednesday having this conversation, we're gonna make some masks, and so hopefully
Yeah,
it'll bring us more into the present moment together. Yeah.
yeah,
All right. Now, since you've made these before, and some people out there may not even know what we're talking about, this is a part of the Million Mask Movement. If you haven't made a mask, you can do that online at 100kmasks.com. So you can experience what Niroj and I will do right now, 100kmasks.com. And he and I are going to do it on paper, and you will be able to do it digitally there. So you have a piece of paper handy?
Yeah, I have it here.
Okay, so we're going to like fold it in half, or we're going to use two different sides. We're going to use the left side and the right side, or you can just draw a line down the middle. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And on the left side, we're going to write front of mask. And on the right, you're going to write back of mask. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now, the first step, this activity is 3 steps. So the first is going to be to draw a mask. So on the left side, I want you to draw a mask. And what we're going to do is, I'm gonna try and play some music. I'm gonna see if it works. I'm hoping it won't do a lot of feedback, but I'm gonna try and see if I can. This is new. This is new. Like, we're gonna test out if I can play some music while we make these masks. So bear with me. And for those that are listening, this is a new experience. So I'm gonna see if I can play this.
I love
I
this
love.
song.
Awesome. I'm gonna turn it down a little bit. Okay. So go ahead and draw your mask. Okay, how was that? How were you able to finish your mask?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm hoping that music part doesn't. We'll take it out if it doesn't come out good. But it was the first time I ever tried that. Normally, we people make their masks before, and we've been making masks together lately. Um, so the first step was to draw a mask, and then the second step is on the same side where the mask is.
Yeah.
The mask kind of being a representation of you, right? And my mask kind of here being a representation of me. What are 3 qualities or characteristics that you gladly let the world see? What are 3 qualities or characteristics of yourself that you gladly let the world see? And write them somewhere on the left side. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. You got the front finished?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. So now we're going to move to the back of the mask. All right. And the back of the mask are the things that we normally don't let people see. So, 3 qualities or characteristics that you normally don't let people see, but that you're willing to share with us today. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. How you doing?
I'm going good. How are you?
Okay. Doing good. We finished?
Yeah, I think I'm finished.
Okay. All right. So now comes the big reveal. So, sometimes, always I let the guest decide who goes first. So either you go
Yeah.
first or I go first, and you decide who you think should go first, who you want to go
Uh,
first.
shall I go first?
It's your choice. You're the guest.
Yeah. So let me start with the front of my mask. It
Okay.
looks somewhat like this. I don't know if it's clear or not.
Mm, yeah.
So I'm quite inspired by Buddha. So this is kind of the radiance that the Buddha shows, and I made the ears long. That is how most images of Buddha is represented. So what I wrote on the front of my mask are peaceful, smart, and authentic.
Mm, peaceful, smart, authentic. Okay. All right. I appreciate that. Anything you want to say about any of those, or should I just go to mine first?
Let's go with your first.
Okay. So here is my mask today. This is the mask that I drew today.
Cool. Has the tribal vibe.
I don't know. It's actually like a cylinder I don't
Yeah,
know why I drew a cylinder today, but it's actually pretty interesting. So here's what I wrote on it. I wrote serious, funny, hardworking, and
yeah,
then I don't know why I drew this in the circle, but this is like a can, like a top, maybe a
yeah,
top for this can. I don't know. I don't know what I was thinking. It was just something happening. Um, because today I don't know if I was showing how caring I was. I think I was like super serious. I was trying to make jokes, and I was like had a lot to get done. I don't know that I was very. It was intense. It wasn't like a very calm and caring kind of get stuff done. It was like let's go. Like, what's going on? Like, why is stuff? Why are they moving everything things around? My office was getting rearranged today, and I found myself just getting like kind of worked up. And I was like, okay, go outside and just take a breath. Why are you getting so worked up? I just there was so much stuff to get done today, and so yeah, that's how today felt. I don't know that I was showing a lot of as much as I really want to be showing a lot of caring. I think I
yeah,
was so like focused on being serious and hardworking that I don't know that caring was very demonstrated outwardly. You know, it's always intended,
yeah,
but if it's not showing, it's kind of hard. You know,
yeah.
yeah, that's the front.
Uh, so mine is pretty straightforward. Basically, I'm a straightforward person. So I'm usually peaceful most of the times, like internally as well as outward. I'm organized, and like you said, I'm a smart ass person. And you already seen the front of my mask as well. And I try to be as authentic and as true to myself as I can. And these are basically the front of my mask.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we're gonna take a breath and we'll go to the back. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. You want to go first?
yeah.
Okay.
So the three words that I wrote for the back of my mask are anxious, nervous, and gloomy.
Hmm. Okay. Want me to go?
Yeah, please.
Okay. All right. So the back, I wrote fear of failure, worry, and sadness about death. And yeah, I think I haven't written worry on the back in if ever, definitely not in a long, long time. And I think fear of failure is always kind of like a high top one that I just don't talk much about, but that's like resonating behind this hard work and seriousness. But worry, I think, is one that is showing up a little bit more lately. Like we have a lot of big events coming up. We got some new things happening, and it's one thing when you have a fear of failure when if you're not doing a whole lot, right?
Yeah,
Then there's not a whole lot to be fearful of failing if you're not trying a whole lot of things. But when you got a bunch of like irons in the fire, and you're trying to like spin a bunch of tops, and you're like trying to keep everything spinning, like that worry of like, oh, is this gonna work? Is this gonna work? Is this gonna work? You know, just it's been like kind of playing in the background. You know, this the soundtrack has been playing like worrying, and I don't want to be worrying. I think, and I think it's easy to just be like, well, just don't worry, just give 100%, and then let it be what it be.
yeah,
And so I think I'm working on the. It is true. It is real but I'm trying to like navigate it, deal with it, and move it on. Like not let it just keep replaying, you know. So those are the things that I'm working on, and I'm listening to a lot of really like stuff that's helping me to kind of like process it. So
yeah.
that's the word. That's the one that's standing out the most. The worry.
Ah.
Yeah.
So I have a very anxious personality. I think I over prepare everything, and right now maybe because of this podcast as well, I'm kind of excited as well as anxious because I always had it in the back of my mind that I have to be here and say something. And I'm nervous that I don't want to look stupid over it, and
Mm.
those are the two basic words that I use on the top. And in terms of gloomy, my neutral state is not happy like a lot of people have. Like my neutral state is always somewhere below normal. Like I'm gloomy most of the times, but it's not in a
Mhm.
bad way. But I just enjoy it. It's like something called melancholy.
You find that that's you said like some people's normal state is that rest is that happy. Is that what you that's what you said?
Yeah,
And yours is mostly your rest state is like gloomy.
yeah,
Is it gloomy like anticipating something is about to happen or feeling like something already has happened to make you
uh,
gloomy?
I think just it is just as it is. Like I'm not thinking about stuff, but I'm usually in a gloomy state. Not too gloomy, but it's usually gloomy, and I think that helps me a lot when I read stuff, listen to music, and all the stuff. Like it really helps me understand the things that I dive into.
Hmm. The state of being gloomy helps you.
Yeah.
Say more about that. Say more. I just want to understand a little bit more. What? How does it help you?
So I have this really intense ability to visualize things when I read or listen. So on my natural state, when I read something that is deeply connected to human emotions and human psyche, I go really really deep into it, and this state kind of ameliorates how I think through this thing.
Got it. Is that been like that for your whole life, or is that since you've um, going into the medical field, or has that been something that's how where did that start? Do you know?
I think back in middle school, I wasn't like naturally observing that this was my natural state, but after that, I was like being more conscious on how my natural state is, and I learned to be more comfortable with it after that. But before that, I was like trying to avoid it. Like it was actually a pretty, it was quite hidden within my mask as well. Like I was trying hard to avoid it. Like I felt like I need to be happy all the time, but later
Hmm.
on, I came in peace with it.
Hmm. Interesting you talk about that because I want to wonder middle school. That's an interesting age for a lot of people. You know,
Yeah,
it's an interesting age.
teenage.
What was middle school like for you in Nepal? Like, what was it? What was your middle school experience like? Because that's when you begin to
Uh,
notice it. I mean, that means did yeah. Tell me about your middle school experience.
so it was kind of tough, like bullying and stuff. I was very overweight at that time, so I was kind of like the target for the bullies, and I couldn't. My confidence level was pretty low, so I couldn't do what I wanted to do. So there are some things that I wish I had done in middle school and high school that I didn't do.
Hmm. Like for example.
So I started playing most musical instrument after I graduated from high school. But I wished I had started those things early on, including sports and other stuff.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah, kind of like regrets, but uh, regrets that doesn't bother me too much these days. I mean, it used to bother me some days back, but something I learned to deal with.
Right on. And so middle school being that tough age and can you tell me just for, contextually, like what does what does bullying look like where you went to school? What would the bully say, do? How would they can you tell me to kind of describe a little bit just so that because I was bullied too in middle school and for
Uh,
my example, it looked one way, but I would like to maybe just hear like what
sorry that you had to enter it also.
well, you as well, brother. I appreciate you sharing it.
So uh, I think in Nepal, bullying was like it starts with teasing and stuff, but later on they try to make it personal with something related to you or your family. Like for me, it was my weight, so me being fat and stuff, and uh, later on it went into something physical, like not exactly hitting, but they try to physically just show the fear of hitting me. But they actually no one actually ever hit me though. But there were other people who were physically hit as well, so those kind
So
of things also
so you knew
happen.
it was possible. You knew it was
Yeah.
possible to get hit. So so what did you how did you how did you well, I guess survive it, right? How did you tell someone? Did you ignore it? Did you just like let it ride all the way through to middle school was over? What did you do?
I ride all the way through. Like I wasn't fighting back physically or verbally, but I was just like dealing with it. Like for I think it was during my 10th grade, I was like having really hard time each day to go through the 10th grade. But after 10th grade, I got really strong because I had to change schools after that. And when I was going to the next school, I was like mentally prepared that I won't let this happen ever again to me. And I became this really asshole kind of personality after that for next 2 years in the high school. But yeah, that was how I dealt with it.
Got it. Well, thank you. I'll just share really quickly. So my middle school experience, this guy who had just gotten out of juvenile hall, like, we heard he was coming. It was like one of those fables where you're in school and this kid who had been gotten in trouble before, he was coming, right? And we were like, oh my God, he's coming. We heard he's coming. He got out, right? And he's coming back to school. And I remember one day I was like wearing this sweater, and I was on the playground lunchtime, and we were running around, and all of a sudden he came up and he's like, "You got ketchup on my sweater." I said, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "You stepped on a ketchup and it squirted on my." I'm like, "What? How did I do that?" And I remember just like, okay, that was kind of strange. And then he happened to be in my PE class, and it just started happening there. He was taking my lunch money, and it went on for quite a while. So yeah, it was more of so he. I was more afraid that I was going to get beat up than ever getting beat up. So it was the fear, and I think that's how sometimes bullies operate. They take it out on those who may not operate back or act back. Um, and every once in a while they pick the wrong one, and then they're like, oh, "Okay, it's not going to work on this one, right?" And
Mhm.
but at that point, I was just more afraid than I was brave. So um,
And I think during that time, most of those bullies they are also dealing with something internally. But I mean, we are all kind of like kids when we're in middle school, right? And I
mm,
think they too also haven't developed something healthy to deal with their emotions at that time. So they resorted to bullying to deal with it.
yeah, I mean that's what a lot of studies say, and I've read that later in life. But when in the moment, you don't, you just like you
No,
just
no.
think that they're
Yeah,
just like kind of evil, evil being on earth. I guess one
yeah,
question I'll have for you is: do you think the gloomy part started before the bullying, or it started after? Do you have any recollection of, because you said middle school is when you remember noticing it? Did
yeah.
you do you remember on what end of that situation that you remember being in the word, using that word that you used, gloomy? Um,
Yeah. I think it started before the whole thing with bullying happened. Like my bullying was in its peak during the end of my mid school and the start of high school. But I was I was kind of noticing it before all these things happened. But all these things kind of distracted me from dealing with my things internally. But yeah, when I was in the middle of mid school and end of mid school, I was like being more conscious about it.
yeah, I think someone's doing fireworks where I am, so I don't know if you can hear it. Hopefully, you can't
Yeah,
hear it. You can hear it a little bit. Um,
yeah,
and I guess thank you for sharing that. I guess I'm gonna move off of the gloomy word. I think, but it's really interesting word. I think when you talk
yeah.
about, one thing I heard you say was that in your experience, like the people around you, you said their natural state was mostly happy. Is that what I understood that you said?
Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, I talk to a lot of people who say that they are happy in their natural state, like not very happy, but like they usually have it on the upper end when they are in their natural state. But I usually tend to be on the lower end when I'm in my natural state. So
yeah. Yeah, I was listening to someone the other day talk about this idea of happiness and being like like the goal of life is not to be happy all the time. I
yeah,
mean, like there are times when you're not going to be happy, where there's other stuff going on, right? And I
yeah,
think
yeah,
that the mysteriousness, or the amazing that people come and say, "Oh, you can be happy all the time and live happy ever after. The fairy tales, right? The
Yeah.
Disney stories are like happy ever after, and then they
Yeah.
were happy ever after. And they lived happily ever after, right? And I think that that's that idea that when I went to engineering, I thought what I was doing was going to this career that was going to make me have happiness ever after. I was going to make money, and then I was going to be happy ever after. And I realized, it's not happy ever after. It's just maybe happy when you're buying stuff or when you're like doing like it was fleeting. It was still the same thing because I think if internally, if you're a person who is not happy, money doesn't fix that, right?
Yeah.
It allows you to do more stuff in an unhappy state. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
you can like cover up all of the other stuff with toys and new things and whatever money allows you to do or however people value the currency of exchanging
Yeah.
this for happiness. Um, yeah, but I mean, and people in their natural state being happy. I wonder if it's that they're happy or that they have to act happy.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it depends upon who you're talking to as well. Like some people have to. Some people tend to believe that they are happy most of the times, but
Mm,
yeah, it also depends upon how honest the person is being with himself.
yeah, that's a big word. How honest are we with ourselves? What about the people that in terms of like just in terms of your main connection of friends or people you hang out with? Do you get to talk about this stuff with them? Like the stuff that we're talking about now about the mask, the back of the mask, front of the mask?
Yeah. So I haven't actually brought the exact term back of the marks and front of the marks and done the exercise with them, but we have had some deep conversation with this stuff, and I think there are some people in my group who usually tend to be naturally happier, like above the neutral end. But yeah, there are some people who are like me as well, like they tend to be below the neutral end.
Hmm.
So I think it
Oh.
depends upon the personality of the person as well. Like some people are naturally jolly and some people are naturally gloomy.
Hmm. I'm thinking about. I'm gonna think about that. That's a good. I wonder. I mean, I wonder what. I'm using that word as a new word that I haven't used before, so I'm gonna think about that. I think when I think about, have you seen the movie Inside Out?
I haven't.
The Disney movie where it talks about the emotions and it has like headquarters, has like inside the headquarters like the brain of the
Oh
girl.
yeah, I have seen that
Yeah,
movie. It's an animated movie, right?
animated movie. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's by Pixar, right? And Inside Out, right? Inside, like you have joy, you have fear, you have anger, you have disgust, and you have sadness, right?
Yeah.
And those are characters that keep operating in certain times. And sometimes somebody's taking over the driver's seat, right? And then gloomy is the blue one, which is sadness, right? And I don't know that gloomy is the same as sad, but I wonder. When I think of gloomy, I think of just how that character continues to just walk around and just like, oh man. And I think that I I wonder what that does for people who operate more from the joy side all the time. Like, did you ever have anybody who was like, "Hey, dude, just cheer up. Why are you being like that?" You ever have people, actually people who like friends who were like, "Dude, why are you so down right now? Like, come on, like who try and pull you out of it?"
Yeah, there are a couple of friends who are like that.
Yeah. Does that help, or is that
Uh,
annoying?
Sometimes it's helpful. Like they always radiate this jolly vibe around them. Like it always seems like whenever I see them and meet them, they are like the sun radiating a lot of good energy to me, and like being with them helps. And sometimes it gets annoying when I'm super upset about something, and at
Hmm.
such time it's like I simply can't avoid this. I had to deal with this, and just avoiding and being jolly wouldn't help me with this. So it depends upon what situation I'm in also.
Got it. Got it. I think it's a great point, right? Like, if there's something you have to deal with, when do you give yourself time to deal with it, right? And I think
Yeah.
maybe I don't know that everyone does give themselves time to deal with all of the stuff that they deal with. Like,
Yeah.
oh man, this thing is going on. I really think about the idea of emotions and feelings when we do the work is like giving people permission. Well, I don't say permission in that way. Giving people an opportunity to say, like, in this space, what we're going to do is we're going to just try and tap into like what you really feel, right? And having a space to feel those things in a healthy way, so that they don't come rushing out in some unhealthy way.
Yeah.
You know, when the people who would come up to you and say, I want to maybe, are you willing to dive into this a little bit just so I can
Yeah. Yeah.
understand
Sure.
more? The people who
Yeah.
would come up
Absolutely.
to you and like say, "Hey, cheer up," and you saying, "Well, I got to deal with this." How does that
Yeah.
conversation go after that? You telling them, "I got to deal with this thing. I can't be all jolly right now because I got to do something real," and they're like, "Hey, just get over it and let's just be fun and whatever." How does that conversation end? How does it? What's the next statement in that conversation?
So they usually make a sarcastic statement and let me be with me. So they let me to deal with it, but they usually make a sarcastic statement before they let me deal with it.
Mm. What is the statement? What is the statement like? What the intent of the statement is to do what? What is the purpose of their
So
statement?
it has to, so they use a different statement every time, but it has the, if I join all the meanings, the common meaning will be like, you are getting to, this guy is a very emotional guy, so I should just let him be, kind of stuff.
I see. I see.
But not in a bad way, but in a funny way. Like, they just so they are good people, and they just loved saying that. It's just a fun way of expressing it to a friend.
Ah, so they don't mean anything by it necessarily.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
So it's simply a joke, but not in a harmful way. Like, it's a pleasant joke shared from one friend to another.
Right. Well, man, thank you for this. Like diving in. I'm trying to think about times where I've been like in one of those. I mean, I think what I have found, me personally, is when I'm in a mood, when I'm in a place where I'm like something's going on, and someone's like, "Hey, just let it go, just cheer up," and you're just like you said, like I want to deal with it, like I want to process it, and um, I think oftentimes a lot of people don't process it.
Mhm.
Like they may just turn it into oh, I'm gonna laugh it off, I'm gonna just smile it off, and um, I believe that it's important that people know how to deal with it in a good
Yeah,
way, so it doesn't come rushing out in unhealthy ways, right? Like if I'm upset about something, for example, and I'm in the office by myself, and then all of a sudden, people come from the team come in, and I'm like, oh man, I'm still kind of in this mode, like of like dealing with this email, this situation, this phone call, whatever. Then I'm just trying to like turn it off so I can just like, hey, how you doing? How you doing? And sometimes I think they can read through it a little bit, right? But I'll just
yeah,
like not talk about it. But I think the energy is still there in me, right? So it's like,
yeah,
how do you, say, what, I'm gonna just need a few minutes just to kind of downwind and kind of like process. But also, I think it's important to be able to be able to turn it back off and say, you know what, I don't have time to deal with it right now. I got things to do. I got people here, and to come back to it. I wonder,
yeah,
do you ever find the way to like? Do you ever find yourself just saying, you know what, okay, I'm gonna put it away for right now. I'm gonna put myself in this optimum energy mood, but I do need to go back and pick this thing up because it's a real thing. It's a real feeling, you
yeah.
know.
So personally, when I have to deal with something, I become paralyzed. Like, I cannot
Mm,
do anything else. I cannot think of anything else. But I think I had this habit, like, but I never like articulated this habit until we had a conversation last time, and I think I discussed about that with you as well. But some I found this way where I'm basically telling myself, telling. So I believe there are many Neros within me. Like, there is one Niroj who is always anxious. There is one Niroj who is always all settle up. But so whenever the anxious or the trouble, upset Niroj comes in, I tell like, Niroj, stay with me for a while. I will come and deal with you later. But I have this something important that I need to deal with right now, and I'm
mm.
gonna come back and deal with you later on. So that is how
Yeah.
I operate in such kind of situation.
Yeah, I'm gonna send you a maybe a video or something. There's a man named Kevin Walton who I was listening to at this event, and he actually talked about that same exact thing. Like when you talk about emotions, and we do a lot of work with emotions with our young men in a program, is trying to make space so they can deal with those emotions, and knowing that sometimes there's that negotiation has to happen, right? You know what?
Yeah,
Like I'm about to go into a job interview. this situation I'm not really happy about, but I gotta like get focused.
yeah,
Okay, look, I'm really upset about that phone call, but right now I got a job on the line. I need to be focused, so I need to put it away. I'm gonna come back to you. Like sad, frustrated, upset. Ashanti, look, I get it, but right now we got a job to do. And you go in and you're like, boom, and then you just like do what you got to do what you came to do, and then you're like,
yeah,
all right, okay, now what am I upset about? What am I upset about? And then being able to deal with it, you know.
yeah.
I like that, and I think imagine when you the way you describe it. I think have you ever told anybody that description where you try and talk about there's many different neuroses inside? Have you ever tried to explain that to someone?
Yeah, I have explained that to only few people, like two, three people about this, and I think one of the people is Pratik. You know Pratik, right?
Oh yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, and so I shared this to Pratik as well, and he also has had some kind of similar experience with this, and so so basically, initially I thought it was schizophrenia. So later on, I came to understand that it is something that is part of the process. And I was reading Carl Jung a lot recently, and Carl Jung also describes this whole process in his psychoanalytic techniques. So that is how I become settled with these things as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that having the understanding of it, and people who won't get it or may try and diagnose it to something, but I think that being able to be clear that we are made up of so many different emotions,
Yeah,
right? And I think that it's all about how we how we hear it, how people explain it to us, and how we make sense of it. But I think being able to recognize there's so many different parts, and how do we
yeah,
navigate those parts in ways that are healthy and that also they don't cause us to what do you call them, repress them, right? Like when I don't
yeah.
think
And
we're
I think
repressing them.
yeah, and the interesting thing about is like each of those emotion, they have a different nature in themselves, and they are a different person within you. Like you have to appreciate them and address them as a different person within you. Otherwise, they would try to interfere with your day-to-day activities. Like you have to understand that that person is also you, but that person is different from you. Like there are so many yous within you that I'm making it so complicated.
No, I think I get what you're saying, and I wonder. I mean, I think that in the explanation there would be people. I mean, I imagine as people think things differently, right? I think
Yeah,
people will be like, no, there's only one you, and I'm like I'm not here to argue either way, but I do
yeah.
recognize the idea of the emotional. Like part of my work is also, if I want to say something provocative, I got to be like, hmm, can people get that right? Especially when I'm talking to
Yeah.
lots of audiences, right? And so I think
Yeah.
like what I hear you saying, I get it, and I think that as I was wondering when if you told people, how did they understand it? Did you have somebody you explain it to who were like, no, it doesn't work that way? Did you have anybody who did not agree?
So I haven't actually talked to someone who I haven't talked about this idea to a lot of people. So I haven't actually got a true feedback on this. But about this as well, like there is a board of committee within my head that decides whether I should say this to someone or not. So my board hasn't yet passed if I should bring this conversation out to everyone else or not.
You call it a that's your board of directors there. I imagine
Yeah,
like, and I think that is almost like the movie. I think that it's like the movie Inside Out, right? I think it's like
yeah,
it's almost like those characters are different parts that are all having interconnected experiences together, right?
yeah.
Right? Like joy is like, hey, come on, hey, get back up, come on. Don't do that, right? Anger is the little red little thing with the fire that comes out of his head, like, like I can see anger a lot of times, right? And I'm like on the
Yeah.
freeway driving, and somebody is like on their. Yeah, I think it happened this morning. Happened this morning. This guy
Can you
was.
share the experience?
Why? Okay, I'm gonna back up. But I remember it happening. I'm like, okay, why is this person in the middle lane going so slow? And so I finally get room to get around. It's like, there's like a mile in front of this person, and then you get around him, and he's on the phone, like texting. And I was like the little fire anger ball. I was like, "Ah!" If you could have saw a fireball coming out of my head, you'd be like, "Oh my god, that was a fireball!" Like, right?
Yeah,
But that's one of those moments where you're just like, okay, all right, get back to focus. Okay, we gotta get back to work. We gotta get stuff done. We got things to do. Let's get focused, right? And just kind of
yeah.
pushing through it, you know. Oh man. Well, is there anything else that you want to 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 discuss or say about these masks? How do you think that people in Nepal would understand this concept? I know a couple of people who came in the delegation, from for Hive, they all
Yeah.
made masks, but do you think it would be something that like schools, like if you were in middle school and somebody brought this activity, do you think middle school students in Nepal would be able to make masks?
Yeah, I think there would be like, but like I was checking the mask pages and I see some inappropriate contents in the marks as well, right? Means kids drawing stupid stuff as well. So I think that kind of thing would also happen. But yeah, so basically, kids around the world, I think they basically think and behave the same in their community. So I think it would be a useful thing to do here as well. Like it is important for every kid to understand to try and compete with their emotions, right?
I mean, that's what I would say as an outsider practitioner. But you as a citizen there, do you think that it would help people? Do you think it would benefit young people there? Let's start with the young people. Just like your middle school self. Do you think
Yeah,
if you recognize that it wasn't just you that were feeling these things that you didn't talk about, do you
yeah.
think it would help you, or do you think it wouldn't
Yeah,
really matter?
I think it would have helped me a lot. Like I would have been years ahead of what I do right now.
Hmm. Okay. Well, maybe there's an opportunity for us to bring the movement there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, right on, Rose. Anything else you want to talk about? Anything else you want to say before we close out? I mean, I'm really thank you for making time for this conversation. Thank you for being our first guest from. If I was going to describe that region, like I lived in India, back in my Fulbright days, but
Yeah,
what would I call that region? Like, it's
uh,
Asia, right? But
it's in South Asia, same as in
South
India,
Asia.
right?
Okay, so
Yeah.
South Asia. You're the first guest on the podcast from South Asia.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And this is and to share and even in different news, this is my first podcast overall. So I'm quite
Boom.
nervous.
Boom. Win win. It's a win win. You
Yeah,
said you're quite nervous?
yeah, I'm quite nervous today. So
Well, you are an expert at what we talked about today. You're an expert on you. So
yeah,
I hope that I mean, there was nothing you could do wrong in this conversation,
yeah. I
because we're
think there
only.
is one thing that I want to highlight before
Mm,
this ends.
yeah.
So, when I was talking about different components within you, I think they
Mm,
are quite a lot affected by how each of those components interpret your experience. Like, we, in a rational way, we have the same experience physically, but each of those components within you interpret those experience differently, and they later on hit on in future sometimes that interferes with your decision. Like it might be something related to your unrequited love or something related to your childhood trauma, but those components are grown by what you experience did you get and how those components interpret your experience.
hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I think that makes a lot of sense, and I think that that's why I was asking. Do you think that the gloomy came from the what you experienced in middle school, since you recognized it there, that it came as a result from the bullying? I,
I think it came before that. Like I think my parents are really really great person, but they have quite some difficulty in understanding how I think and how I function.
mm,
And I think a lot of it relate to how I was raised as a child as well, not just in school but within my family as well, and how my inner nature were and how they were not fulfilled in the way that I wanted it to be fulfilled back then. And I think it kind of resonates with how I build relationships right now too. Like I have a really really hard time being vulnerable with someone who I'm trying to be romantic with. So I think all of these things are connected in a way.
yeah. Do you think that that's common for men in Nepal, that they have a hard time being vulnerable with intimate partners, or are they normally is normally are men in Nepal able to be intimate and have really deep conversations like this with each other?
So it depends. Like there's a small group who are open to talk about their feelings, but
Mhm.
I don't know if it's same around the world. But the traditional Nepali men, I don't like using the term toxic masculinity a lot because I don't think masculinity is something that is toxic and that is something to be hated. So there is this trend where the boys have to be like very cool. They must know it all and they have to be like settled and they have to be strong enough to take care of their families. And I think this
Mhm.
pressure kind of makes them someone who is not able to talk about their feelings.
Yeah. So that pressure to conform, the pressure to
Yeah.
operate, and are those rules? Are they rules that are like kind of like, where does it come from? Do you know? Does it come from like the older boys at school? Is like, oh, you learn from them, or is it culturally that, oh, just the men don't do it, or is it something you kind of learn from just the patterns of other young boys in your community?
So I traveled a lot within Nepal, and I think this is more prevalent in the original rural communities or people where the ethnic people of that place are still living there. Like they have everyone has a very huge family or family connection, and most boys within those families they are like they behave this way. So when a child grows up, they kind of have this understanding like for a boy he has to be something like this, and for a girl she has to be something like this, and there's this kind of ongoing thing that passed on for generations and generations, and that is I think how this came to be.
Mm. Well, I guess we have a lot to learn now, and I know that Pratik, as you talked about, has made some masks with different little organ like workshops he's done in Nepal, and maybe
Yeah,
this will be an opportunity for us to, go to your middle school and like, or
yeah,
not us. I say us like I'm going to do it. Like you
yeah,
go to your old middle school and see if
yeah,
you can invite some students to make a mask, and to
yeah, absolutely.
see if it maybe will help a student who was like yourself, who was not being heard or listened to or couldn't talk about it. And I don't know. I mean, I think the
Yeah,
goal for this movement is for it to be a global movement that people will realize they're not alone. You think it could have helped you, then maybe there's somebody else who it can help right now. You know.
yeah, yeah, it requires a lot of time, but yeah, it is something that is needed to be done, and I think it will actually save a lot of lives.
Hmm. Can you say another sentence about that? What do you mean by that?
I mean, I think a lot of people spend years without trying to deal with their emotions and their expression, and I think they build up a lot of regret as they grow older regarding this, and they have kind of this clinging regret that I wish I had done something in the past and I didn't do it. And I think that actually in turns passes on to their next generation. I think they would try to project those things into their children as well, and this kind of continues until someone breaks the rule. But yeah,
Yeah. So maybe it's an opportunity to see if the cycle can be broken. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I guess you're going to break it for your family, right? You're not going to shut down your emotions and not talk about it, right?
Yeah, but so about this, I think my family cannot handle me being pretty straightforward. Like, I don't sugarcoat things. Like, I'm pretty straightforward in what I say, and usually this is very hard for my family to deal with it. Like every new day, I break some new rules, and they find it pretty hard to deal with me.
Mm. So what do they do? I mean, you're still alive. They've dealt with you for all these years, right? So
Yeah.
so even though it's hard, what do they do? How do they navigate? Do they just like ignore you? What do they do?
So they usually project their distress into me in terms of anger or something else. Usually, the red fire is all over my parents when I'm talking about something.
Mm. Well, man, that's really interesting. And I wonder those patterns that they want to project on you, maybe is the patterns that were projected onto them. And I think that
Yeah,
that happens. And I think that happens in communities. It happens in culture. It happens that we do, like the people who we learned it from. and then
Yeah.
we pass it on to those that we, right? And unless somebody decides to be like, you know what, I'm not gonna be doing that. I'm not gonna tolerate that, right? I imagine those become those hard conversations, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I think
Yeah.
that is the kind of pattern I see in my parents as well. Like, uh, I kind of understand their situation was kind of hard financially as well as how things were back then in Nepal overall. But yeah, there is kind of this emotional projection of my grandparents into my parents as well, and how they project their things into the world.
Yeah. Hmm. Well, I'm hoping maybe have you ever had a conversation with your parents about? I mean, I imagine you do because
Yeah,
you sound like you've had many discussions with them about them not liking the way you do it, right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
maybe
I have this conversation quite often, but yeah, I am the rule breaker, so it's usually hard for them to handle what I say. And also, I think the parents, they would always take their kids as little kids. Like, no matter how old I grow, my parents will always think of me as someone they just gave birth to. So it's usually hard for them to process that I said something like that to them. So
they're like, we must not have given birth to this one who's talking to us like this, right? Okay,
uh,
okay. Where did he come
but
from? They've replaced our child with this child here.
yeah, but usually my friends and all the people that I talk to, my mentors, they usually take my words well. I think they take my words well. They haven't said anything to me till now, so hopefully they take it well.
Well, man, thank you. I want to just thank you for being on the show. I want to make sure that if there's anything else you want to say that you can say that now. And if I'm excited to speak to more people in South Asia. I think
Yeah,
it's a great. You and I've had several conversations on the phone here and there, or through
yeah,
WhatsApp. But I'm thank you for being on the show today and for opening up this conversation and being a part of this
yeah,
movement with us.
yeah. And thank you, Asanti, so much for inviting me and breaking my podcast virginity.
Well, I'm glad you were willing to be in the show, and maybe I'm imagine Pratik is gonna be like, well, why am I not on your show? I know you first, right? But we're gonna he's always traveling around the world. We're gonna have to tell him maybe he'll be the second one, right?
Yeah, but he's not a podcast virgin, so I get the chance now.
It's on you. It's on you. It's on you.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that
Uh,
you've been here. Congratulations on finishing medical school. I'm really excited for you.
yeah.
What's next? I think what's next. So now medical school is finished. Now what do you do?
So I run a tech service company here in Nepal near where I live, and also I work with this new nonprofit that is trying to go big here in Nepal in terms of health and
Okay.
accessibility to health. So for 2 years at least, I would be focused on those works as well as I would be working as a doctor at my hospital.
Okay.
And I think I would be coming to US for my higher studies after that.
Awesome. Well, man, I'm really happy for you. Congratulations. I hope once this pandemic lifts and we got some room, I'm hoping I get to come and visit.
Yeah,
And
would it
I
would be
appreciate it.
amazing to have you here.
Thank you, man. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah,
Well, until then, we want to thank you all for being listening to the show. Thank you for being a part of this conversation of two men coming together to talk about our mass from different parts of the world, from two different days. Like it is, it is Wednesday where I am, it is Thursday where he is, and we get to come together in these masks and recognize that there's a lot more going on with each of us than anybody could ever see by looking at us. The
yeah,
more that we as men can have these conversations from across the globe, from different age groups, from different communities, I think we can really get to love each other a little bit more, care about each other
yeah.
more, have more empathy. And so, thank you, Niroj. Thank you.
Thank you,
And
Asante.
I look forward to seeing you again soon. You enjoyed, if you've listened to this and you found something inspiring, please like and subscribe to this podcast. That's the best way for someone to find this podcast, maybe like you did, please tell someone about it. If you know, listen to some of our previous episodes, and if one of them rings out to you, please share it with somebody you know. We also invite people to join us in a face-to-face where they come together with another person to make a mask and talk about that mask together. There's short conversations, about 20, 30 minutes. So if that's something that's interesting to you, please send us a message, send us in the comments below, let us know that you're interested in that. And we look forward to you joining the movement of the Million Mask Movement. And check out our new shirt. I don't know if you can see it, but this is our new shirt, the Million Mask Movement. And so we'll have these soon available, but we look forward to you being a part of the movement and supporting our work. Please consider supporting the work that we do in Ever Forward and in the work that we do in the Million Mask Movement to let people around the world realize that they're not alone. Thank you.